Coming up.
Not aware of this report.
I actually told you there was a report altered.
Excuse me. Councillor Doyle had the floor. Do not...
She cut me off as well,
Excuse me, Councillor Doyle has the floor.
Tensions boil over with former Mayor Paul Pisasale centre stage at the June meeting of Ipswich City Council, where there was a spectacular backflip on the renaming of Paul Pisasale Bridge and Pisasale Drive. A rates rise announced at a separate budget meeting. The Spark Festival lights up the city, and RAF Amberley to host the Ipswich Amberley Air Tattoo in October. It's Friday, July 1, 2022, and I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This episode begins with the June 30 meeting of Ipswich City Council, where it was put forward by at least one councillor that the community consultation over the renaming of Pisasale Bridge and Drive was botched. Another councillor indicated regret in supporting the earlier resolution to remove the Pisasale name. The renaming had been deferred from the May meeting after Councillor Paul Tully delayed the decision by moving what's called a procedural motion, which was supported by councillors Madsen, Ireland, Johnnick and Milligan. The same five councillors who supported restoring the Pisasale name at the June meeting. Councillor Nicole Johnnick opened the discussion.
The facts that I would like to point out was the adopted Mayoral Minute on the 9th of December 2021 clearly stated that a report be prepared for a council meeting no later than May 2022 that outlines community sentiment on the renaming, costs associated, options for the potential renaming of these assets. I emphasise the fact that this includes community sentiment on the renaming, along with options for the potential renaming. The reason I'm highlighting the recommendation wording specifically is because I have a copy of the community engagement report that looks quite different to the one that is included in the attachments today.
Councillor Nicole Johnnick dropped a bombshell by introducing a draft report which differed from the final report councillors were asked to vote on. Council CEO Sonia Cooper accepted responsibility for the changes and gave her reasons.
So for the broader audience, the community, that was a report that was drafted and was destined for the Governance and Transparency Committee that was due to meet on that did meet on the 5th of May. Being asked questions about the report, I reviewed the report as the CEO and I formed a view that the options that were included in that report and the recommendations, but more so the attachment of the report, did not deliver in line with, as I saw it and interpreted it, the resolution that this council made. As an officer, as a CEO, I've made an interpretation on the advice and in consultation with the responsible general manager that the job that was on us, the task that we had, was to bring forward a report for a council meeting, as has been noted, no later than May of this year, that outlines community sentiment on the renaming of those assets of the bridge and the drive, costs associated and options for the potential renaming of these assets in line with Council's naming procedure. I formed a view that we were not being asked to engage with the community on sentiment in relation to the denaming, that decision having already been made by the Council, and the decision that was made by the Council to consult the land landowners in relation to Pisasale Drive. The options for potential renaming of the assets in line with Council's naming procedure could not be names of politicians, whether current, former or political themes. So I could not form a view that it was the job that was asked of us to bring forward a report that brought forward community sentiment on the denaming and suggested that the name should be left in place because that would not be in line with Council's naming procedure.
Jacob Madsen, expressing frustration at the whole process, regretted voting in favour of removing the Pisasale name.
I actually consider that the particular vote that I made on the mayoral minute in December, that's the only vote that I actually regret in my time at council. And I regret it for one key reason. That was put on us on the spot in the chamber. A number of councillors here in this council did not have any prior notice that that was happening on that morning. I'm very proud that we've changed the meeting procedures so that mayoral minutes can't just be dropped on people at a moment's notice and then a decision's expected. I actually consider that the way that that was executed was a bit of wedge politics. And we shouldn't be engaging in wedge politics. We should be making prudent decisions that we're considering. I think, on most things you should have a couple of days to think about it, talk to others about it, sleep on it. Sleeping before making a decision is some of the best advice you will receive in life. So that initial mayoral minute, and that's created some of the issues for this report. The mayoral minute is poorly written, in my opinion. It makes a decision before doing the community sentiment. I regret not in the moment, standing up and saying, I need time to consider this and whether or not it's actually written appropriately. I want to know the community's views on matters like this. But instead, I was a bit afraid to actually speak to it because of the sensitivities about the former mayor. And, if you make any comment one way or another, you can be taken to have some form of clandestine political agenda, and that's not the case. That's why I reject the wedge politics that was utilised in pursuing this. I've actually discussed this matter previously with the CEO. I don't agree with her interpretation at all. Because it's in the committee that I chair, I actually read that report when it was accidentally published to my committee. Nobody mentioned anything about it, and then I saw it come in the ordinary council meeting, and it was a different report. So that was a red flag.
Councillor Marnie Doyle added her frustrations.
Wow, a lot to unpack there, but you're going to have to be patient with me because I haven't had the benefit of time that clearly many in this chamber have. So as Councillor Madsen has pointed out, we shouldn't have to be making these decisions last second on the fly. I wasn't afforded notice of this ahead of it being raised today. So I guess that's probably my first concern and objection. I would like to go on record. I've never heard of the concept of wedge politics, but most of you know I'm not the political beast that others are. However, what I am, and I don't think anyone would argue against, I am independent, I am very outspoken, and I will not be coerced or forced into making a decision that I do not back or stand by. Now, I challenge anybody in this room to find an individual that thinks it's okay, passes a pub test, or is acceptable to name an asset after a politician or the politician's family. I challenge you all. We are having this discussion today and we are in this predicament because we used to go down the path of attaching our names to these assets. Now, back to December, there was a resolution of this council to dename both the assets. That was done.
Ultimately, the motion to rename lapsed due to a lack of support from councillors, and a foreshadowed motion to reinstate the Pisasale name was put forward by Councillor Paul Tully.
The council reinstate the names Pisasale Drive at Yamando and Paul Pisasale Bridge at Springfield Central.
So that's the motion that Councillor Tully has put forward. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Ireland.
I'll be brief with this, Mr Mayor, because... I'm sorry, Mayor.
Mayor?
I had many
No,
years.
something I don't.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, the original motion last year was to dename and to rename, but there is nothing obviously in that motion that would prevent the renaming of an original name. I think as a council we need to move on. It's a matter that is quite sensitive, and you've certainly raised issues which councillors can take into account and the community can take into account. Councillor Johnnick has raised a number of issues, and I not referring to matters of change of reports or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that the report to council did not include the sentiments of a large number of people. I think that this is just an opportunity to make a decision once and for all. We're more than 2 years into this term of office. and this matter is still around. It had been mooted with councillors, I think, in the first couple of months after the election about what might happen, and then it seemed to disappear off the agenda, not the physical agenda, but the agenda of discussion between councillors, and then became highlighted again with the motion at the end of last year. So all I say is this is an opportunity for our community to move on and make a final decision once and for all.
CEO Sonia Cooper asked the meeting to consider how the foreshadowed motion would comply with Council's naming procedure. Councillor Paul Tully responded.
The naming procedure, Council has the right to name anything it wishes. The procedure doesn't bind councillors at a council meeting. We are free to, and I'll give you an example of that where that recently came up, that this council, as the corporate body, made a decision on a name, and that was to change the name of the community hub at Augustin Heights to formalise it to the Augustin Heights Community Hub, whereas another name had been placed on it without councillor consultation. Having a procedure in place, even having a policy in place, doesn't bind this council in making any decision it wants, either in relation to process, in relation to name, or in relation to compliance with procedures. We are the decision-making body. The Local Government Act makes it clear about the naming of roads. That includes a bridge element on roads, and this motion just seeks to exercise that power. Otherwise, we've got a procedure which is could be interpreted as preventing councils from doing things. I would be amazed that could ever be interpreted as preventing us from making the final decision.
The final vote to reinstate the Pisasale name on the bridge and the road got up by one vote. Councillors Madsen, Ireland, Johnnick, Tully and Milligan voted in favour. Mayor Harding and councillors Kunzelman, Doyle and Fechner voted against. This could be a fairly common voting bloc going forward. You can view the full council meeting, including the lengthy discussion on this item, at Ipswich City Council's YouTube channel. Ipswich City Council also handed down its budget on June 30. The rates and charges rise for owner-occupiers is 4.49%. Mayor Teresa Harding joins the show to talk budget and more. Thank you for speaking with Ipswich today, Mayor Harding.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Alan.
Before we get to the special budget meeting, at a second council meeting held on the same day, the bridge and road, which council voted on months ago to remove the Pisasale name, took a very unexpected turn, reversing the previous resolution. Watching the live stream, you were clearly blindsided by the move. What happened?
Well, I respect democracy and the decision that my fellow councillors made to reinstate the name. That is a decision of council to reinstate Paul Pisasale Bridge and Pisasale Drive. But personally, Alan, it's fair to say that I'm bitterly disappointed. I've got to say quite disgusted by the outcome. In December, Ipswich City Council voted to remove Pisasale's name from those assets, and we were now in community consultation to rename those assets. And yes, there was a motion put by Councillor Tully to reverse that, to overturn it, and he won that vote 5-4. I'm hoping that decision doesn't signal a return back to the bad old days of Ipswich City Council, and I guess I'll always fight to make sure that doesn't happen. And I guess, Alan, if I can say, we're about to spend thousands of dollars to honour a convicted criminal, a criminal that was convicted of sexual assaults, corruption, fraud, extortion. And I've got to say, as a woman, it does not sit well with me at all. I mean, what does this say to women of Ipswich, that our council just voted to honour someone like that? It's absolutely disgraceful. But it is what it is. And I guess the other thing, I'm quite concerned on the impact to his many victims, but also to the landowners. We did, as per the policy, we did go to all the landowners along Pisasale Drive. All but one responded, and everyone that did respond wanted to change the name. And some of them told me that it's a real embarrassment. So, you know, it's the views of the landholders, the views of the many victims and the views of the community were just thrown out the window, and it's very disappointing.
Deputy Mayor Jacob Madsen certainly jumped out of his shell at this meeting and brought up the issue of wedge politics, and I'm not sure whether he was referring to what happened at this month's meeting or what's happened at previous meetings, but it seems to be there's a bit of politicking going on in the chamber and it's not a good look going forward. How can councillors get over some of these personal feelings that are coming to the fore?
Look, we were all elected as independents, and it's our job under the Local Government Act to work together collaboratively for us to work for the betterment of our city. We're not the state parliament, we're not the federal parliament. That is our role, and we should be debating the ideas and not the people. And I would hope that this council going forward will do their job and their duty under the Local Government Act going forward.
I can't help but feel that we're seeing some early campaigning, even at this very early stage, for some councillors seeking re-election in 2024.
I will have to take that up with them. I'm pretty focused on delivering for people now.
It's also interesting that councillors Madsen Island, Johnnick, Tully and Milligan voted in favour of putting Pisasale's name back, and yourself and councillors Kunzelman, Doyle and Fechner voted against. We've seen that voting block before. Do you think this is going to be a pattern going forward?
I'm not sure, but I guess with this particular motion, it was a big election issue. And we were asked what our stance was and what we would do. And 6 of the councillors said that they would change the names, and that's how they voted in December. 2 of those councillors have flipped, and so they have gone back on an election commitment. So that will be up to them when they go up for re-election on how what the voters think of that. Look, you will find in any group, you asked if there was a little block. I think there's always going to be alliances. I guess my response to that is to always vote on the issue. It shouldn't be about blocks. It shouldn't be about friendships and so on. It's got to be based on the issue. A democracy is a festival of ideas, and that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Let's talk about the council budget, which was the big issue of the day. Nobody likes to hear the rates are going up. So how did you settle on 4.49% for owner-occupiers, and why?
We delivered a record $621 million budget for next year with a real focus on flood recovery and also making sure that we have great services for the people of Ipswich and keeping pace with our growth and transformation. It's always really difficult. We never want to increase the rates, but we also have lots of projects that we know our residents want done. And so it's a real balancing act. We were very committed to making sure that the rate rise was below CPI, which we did do. And we also made sure that the rate rise for the commercial was also well below CPI as well, because they have been bearing the brunt for a long time. So it is always a delicate balancing act.
The numbers are almost a little bit big to comprehend, $620 million. That's a huge budget. What are the capital expenditure highlights?
Yeah, our capital works budget for next year is $229 million, and $78 million of that will actually be on road maintenance and upgrades, which is a core business of council. And we're also making sure we've got money to support businesses, community groups, but also we have $30 million in the budget for flood recovery. We still have quite a few council assets and sporting fields and so on that were severely impacted by the flood, so we do need to bring those up to scratch.
One obvious new item in the budget that stood out for me was the part pensioner concession on rates. Now, previously you had to be on the full pension to get that, and it was resisted by previous administrations for many years. How come you've decided to introduce that this year?
We took a really long, hard look as to who would be everyone's being impacted by COVID and building supplies and inflation. And we did look at what was happening in other parts of South East Queensland, and other councils in South East Queensland have had the part pension remission for some time. So if you have a full pension, 100% pension, you get a $245 remission. And if you have a part pension, whether it's 1% or 98%, you'll get a $120 remission each year. And we thought that was a fair way to help people who are on a fixed income.
Well, there's a lot of hardship in the community. Homelessness is always top of the news agenda at the moment. Are there any further hardship assistance options, particularly for flood-affected residents, that council might have in the offing?
Last quarter, we provided a $250 rebate to everyone who had a flood-impacted property. We did that automatically, and we've decided to extend that for another quarter as well to assist people who've really been hit hard.
What about support for businesses and job creation?
This budget commits $110,000 towards skills development and investment to attract new jobs here. We've got rapid growth in our population. We have about half of the people who work in Ipswich work outside of Ipswich. So we want to make sure that we do attract more people here, but also for people to have the skills of the jobs that are coming here as well. So we'll be working with our chambers and the state government to make sure that we've got some really tailored packages to help people.
Mayor Teresa Harding, we're bouncing between two meetings with our chat today because there was the morning meeting for budget, the afternoon meeting was an ordinary meeting of council. Can we just draw out a couple of items that were outstanding in item 14? Councillor office space, has that been resolved?
Well, I thought it had, but obviously it hadn't. So the CEO is going to be providing additional information to councils in relation to local office space. The matter is progressing for Division 2 councillors, Councillor Johnnick and Councillor Tully. They're wanting some more private space for meetings. There's obviously a financial implication for that, but the other councils are more than happy to meet residents and ratepayers either in the council administration office or the local library or a community centre. Queensland
Treasury Corporation has a finance model going forward for Nicholas Street. I'm not sure whether it's new, but has anything changed going forward, and if so, why?
So this was initiated back in 2020 when the Deputy Mayor was Marnie Doyle. So myself and Marnie asked for some modelling from QTC. Nicholas Street Precinct, which this council has inherited, is a great opportunity for our city. We wanted to make sure that any decisions that we're doing going forward involve some good financial backing, good financial understanding, good governance, but also looking at the best opportunities for the people of Ipswich. It's ratepayers' money that's being spent, so we are looking at what are the future options for the Nicholas Street Precinct. Do we keep it? Do we sell it? Do we sell part of it? What are the areas that we could be looking at to improve it as well? So we're very much wanting to make sure that the Nicholas Street Precinct delivers value for the people of Ipswich.
I know you've been excited lately with a couple of the early tenants opening, like Chemmart and the Gelato shop, which I can't think of the name of right now. Are there any further updates for new tenants?
Well, gelatissimo, you'll have to come down, Alan, because once you have one, you won't forget. Great flavours, and my husband's a celiac, so there's lots of gluten-free there as well. So there's lots of variety there. So obviously waiting for that dumpling place to open up. That's pretty exciting. You can hear the work going on there. And Zambreros and also Sushi Hio are also opening up soon too. So it's pretty exciting. We can't wait for more tenants to come as well.
Back to one more serious item, Mayor Harding, and that is the ministerial call-in on the Wanless development at Ebenezer, the proposed development. Council's later submission to government. Can you just step us through the main points?
We prepared quite an extensive submission to the state government. Despite council rejecting the application for a new landfill and approving the recycling, the Minister for State Development, Infrastructure, Local Government Planning has decided to use his ministerial powers to do a call-in. So we'll very much put the view of the council and I think of our community to make sure that the minister either rejects it outright, doesn't do a call-in and allows the situation to stand, or if they do call it in, to make sure that he upholds the council's position, because at the moment Wanless are taking us to court over it. So
there's nothing much further council can do until the minister decides?
Yes, but also there's been community groups and businesses have also put in a judicial review. So I understand that the minister can't make a decision until that judicial review is over as well.
Mayor Teresa Harding, thanks for talking with Ipswich today.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Now for some feel-good news. The Spark Festival kicks off July 7 for 11 nights, featuring magical light-based art installations across the city centre. For example, two of the city's iconic buildings become multi-storey artworks through the use of lighting projected onto the buildings. St Mary's Church will be a blank canvas to showcase works by local and Indigenous artists. The best views will be from Timothy Maloney Park. In 2022, the program delivers a fresh lineup of music, comedy, arts, exhibitions, circus, projection, culture, cabaret, technology, collaboration and discussion. The music part of the Spark program includes an indie music crawl through Ipswich CBD. Waghorn to West is where it's at for one night only. A number of venues will be a magnet for music lovers, wanting to experience up to 16 artists at 4 live music venues. This year's expanded festival program features several new additions, including the festival's hub, Luminate, where friends and family can gather and enjoy Spark After Dark in the rejuvenated Ipswich Central. Check the show notes for links to the full program. A second Ipswich Central river crossing has officially been recognised by Infrastructure Australia. The second crossing, which council says will be a game changer for the city, now features in the national body's 2022 Infrastructure Priority List. Infrastructure Australia announced the Ipswich City Council Cross-River Connectivity and Network Resilience listing is a Stage 1 proposal on the infrastructure list. The proposed new bridge is set to be built above flood level and is known as the Norman Street Bridge. The existing town bridge, which is the David Trumpy Bridge, currently carries around 40,000 vehicles a day. That's just some of what you'll hear at the Ipswich Amberley Air Tattoo, taking place on October 29 and 30 this year. Tickets go on sale Wednesday, July 20 at 9 a.m. Defence is hosting the Ipswich Amberley Air Tattoo in partnership with Ipswich City Council. Air Commodore Micah Gray, head of air shows, said the Air Force was pleased to be partnering with Ipswich City Council to host the Air Tattoo at Amberley and local venues in October this year. The cost is $10 per ticket or $40 for a group of 5 people. Children 5 years and under are free and do not require a ticket. You'll be able to watch Air Force flying displays at the Air Force Base during the 2-day event. Aircraft will also be on static display on the ground, as well as a range of military equipment, showcasing the capabilities of several Australian Defence Force units and squadrons. Check the link in the show notes for information on the Ipswich Amberley Air Tattoo. Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button on the homepage to make a payment through PayPal. Follow and stream this podcast from your favourite app, including iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts, or play Ipswich Today from smart speakers. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thank you for listening.